Thank you, Presiding Officer. And perhaps it might be just as well to declare at the outset a personal and family interest in the matter, since my niece, who's a scientist, lives and works in Sweden. Jo enjoys her time there, and Jamie, my nephew, lives and works in Denmark, where he is a teacher. So I have a great nephew and a great niece who in Danish are half Den, in other words, half Danish and half Scots. And if it had not been for the existence of the free travel to go and work without any great difficulty, I suspect the history of my family in the modern time might be a little bit different than it actually is. Now, we've heard a bit about who can vote, and of course the answer for Christian Allard is extremely straightforward. The Liberal Party have 8 members of the House of Commons and 101 members of the House of Lords. Pro rata, that means that probably the SNP can appoint 707 members to the House of Lords, and I propose that Christian Allard be the first of them, because then he meets the necessary requirements to allow him to vote. However, let's go a little bit deeper into this Act that the Tories have brought before us, and we discover some very interesting things. While he might not be allowed to vote, he is allowed to be a permitted participant in the referendum, to register a campaign, to contribute all his worldly wealth, to go into hock if he wishes to, and campaign for a particular result. And by the way, that also includes 16- and 17-year-olds could establish campaigns, be permitted participants. So you're allowed to influence the outcome, but not be part of the outcome. A quite bizarre way of bringing forward a piece of legislation. And of course, Christian Allard would consider the matter very carefully and cast his vote in an appropriate way, and that would be true of many of our citizens. And of course, even more bizarre, you come to the situation of the citizens of Gibraltar, all those who are allowed in the extended constituency in the southwest of England to be, for the European elections, part of that vote, allowed to vote in this. Yeah, fascinating. Oh, by the way, the peers, of course, peers who are not even UK citizens, peers who are not EC citizens, but who are electors in the City of London, they would be entitled to vote. So that you've got this bill, this tawdry piece of paper from the Tory government there, riddled with inconsistencies to deny citizens of Europe who have the greatest stake in this referendum, who contribute mightily to the economy of the UK and of Scotland, denied the vote, while many of the parasites, simply by a right of owning property in the City of London, are able to participate and to set up campaigns on whichever side of the argument. It's a totally banal, bizarre piece of legislation that's before us. Now, I don't stand before you as someone who is an uncritical supporter of the EU, representing fishermen in Scotland. I, of course, share with them the discomfort that when a fishing boat that is registered in Scotland goes out, it's covered by our regulations, but it can be alongside in the same place off our shores, for example, a Spanish boat working to a different set of legislation. And that's got to be something that we've got to fix. But we can do that. We're making some sort of progress. Now, I'm going to really live dangerously. Last week I lived dangerously when I quoted Alistair Campbell, who described Charles Kennedy as somebody who spoke human. And I thought he spoke excellent sense on that. But I'm going to go even further, Presiding Officer, and quote Margaret Thatcher. So that's really living dangerously. In June 1975, in the debate after the result of the last referendum, she said, "We join him in rejoicing," a favourite word of Margaret Thatcher, "over this excellent result. We're particularly pleased with a strong yes vote from each of the constituent nations of the UK." She recognised the importance of achieving that support from each of the constituent nations. And perhaps the Tories should consider what their dear leader, said in 1975 in considering the position that they now wish to take. I hope, Presiding Officer, that both the amendments from Labour and Liberal do resonate around the Chamber, although because they delete important things from the Government motion, I suspect we will not support them. For my part, I'd be happy to support their contents, if not their deletions. Presiding Officer.